is going on, YouTube universe? Welcome to the Hip and Shoulder, and it is that time of the week, ladies and gentlemen. It is time to get our tips in, just a little bit. And with round 23 kicking off later tonight, I better hurry the fuck up. However, slow your roll. Before we get to round 23 and lock in our tips, it is critical for us to reflect on the round that was, and round 22 for myself was a break-even round, because I only managed 5 out of 9. I could have very well had 7 out of 9 had I tipped with my head more than my heart, and I could have very well had 9 out of 9 had some upsets not gone down as well. But I'm thinking with the upsets that went down, there might not be maybe a perfect round, and we could have had a couple of people shift around in the configuration of our ladder. So having a look at the outcomes we had here, as you can see on screen, my losses came very quickly. Actually, if I scroll down just a little bit more, there's all 4 of my losses. By the end of Saturday night, I had only tipped 2 games correctly. It was looking very grim for myself heading into Sunday, I can tell you that. We backed Collingwood by 19 points. They got absolutely belted by Hawthorn, and that now throws a conundrum in the works of whether or not Collingwood are going to finish in the top 4. This is going to be a very interesting run home over the next 2 weeks, because there is still very much so going to be a lot of shifting going on, especially with top 8 teams still having to fight each other. They're going to be knocking each other up and down that ladder for the next couple of weeks, and I can't remember a finals configuration at this point in the season that still has mathematically the chances of second place dropping out of the top 8. It's very, very slim chances. I mean, for Geelong to miss the top 8 here, they need to lose both games by 100 plus points, and that's not going to happen. But, I mean, statistically, there's a probability.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
Speaking of Geelong, they bounced Essendon, not as much as I thought they would. I honestly thought this would be a 10-plus goal win. Jezza Cameron only managing to kick 4 goals, so he's still, I think, 21 goals away from that 100. I don't think he's going to make it during the home and away season, but with Richmond still to come, and with them taking on Sydney this coming week, anything could happen. He could pop off and kick 11 and 10. He could pop off and kick 11 and 10, surely. We tipped Richmond in a game that I feel we should have won, and we let it slip. It was heartbreaking for myself to pick up yet another loss by under a kick. Richmond this year, St Kilda, GWS, North Melbourne, all under a goal they lost by, which means we could very well have been sitting on 8 wins for the season, which would have had us placed around 11th and 12th, maybe, given this point of the season. So that would have been huge, given the scope of the fact that we were tipped to not win any games at all this year. So Heartbreak City for me, and it continued because we had the upset of the round, which was Sydney defeating Brisbane at the Gabba. The Gabba no longer a fortress for Brisbane because they've been getting smacked there all year this year. I don't know what the fuck is going on with Brisbane. This is more than just a they can't win games without Joe Danaher kind of deal, because they've been winning games this year, but back at home, it's not the fortress it used to be, and that now spells a little bit of doom in my eyes come finals time. If they are booked at the Gabba during the finals, are we going to see Brisbane bounced out on their home turf? Could happen. And then we tipped Carlton over the Gold Coast, and we actually took Carlton as our certainty. They only lost by 19 points, which was very, very interesting. I thought, given how the game had blown out at one point, that they were going to get absolutely bounced. But it was a one of those games where Carlton, for 3 quarters of football, just couldn't register a score, and they had that run home late, but it was just too late. We're green lit for the rest of the round. We tipped Fremantle to defeat Port Adelaide, and they did so via Alex Pearce with only a minute or so left on the clock. We tipped GWS to defeat North Melbourne, and they did that quite convincingly. We picked the Bulldogs to defeat Melbourne, and that came down to a saving grace mark from Sam Darcy, which looked absolutely fantastic. To see him and the courage to go against the flight and mark it like that was great. And probably the surprise packet of the round, maybe even surprise packet of the season. West Coast took it to Adelaide for 3.5 quarters of football. That was a very great game to watch, and I thought that was going to be a 10-plus goal win for Adelaide. So West Coast hanging in tough there. Tip of the proverbial hat to you guys. As you can see on screen, I have been eliminated from the gauntlet. I'm still alive, at least for the minimum 5. Thank fuck for that. With all that out of the way, let's go see how everybody else managed to do for the round. Number 8 seems to be the magic number this week because 8 out of 9 was the most correct amount of tips made. So congratulations to Ron S and Jess Z for tipping the most correct amount of tips this particular round. And reflecting on the total tips, to no surprise, Lana S, Skyvo, another round on top, 3 tips clear. I don't think she's going to be losing this marker, which she has held all season. So congratulations once more to you, Lana, for holding down the top spot. My top 10 then fades out with Beano's, Nado, Macca0303, Jazz Sky 13, Frio 90, Gramercy Riff 78, Princess Cahill, MRL from PA, and Yarra Villa. So congratulations to my top 10. I've dropped down to 26, which places me still 3 tips out of the top 20. I've got to start making some moves. Maybe it's this week. Well, we're getting a blockbuster later tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We've got Essendon taking on St Kilda. I don't understand how Essendon have been getting all of these primetime slots. And this poses a proposition, I feel, to the AFL here. And I think it's one they need to follow through with. And I would love to know your thoughts at home. Should the AFL introduce a floating fixture in the way of the fixture during the course of the year drops every 3 to 4 weeks? That way, the AFL can monitor how teams are performing and blockbuster slots, the primetime slots can get booked accordingly. The NFL do it. They drop their games in blocks and they're able to work out their primetime movers and everything else. And I think the AFL could probably benefit from that because instead of having a game like this, actually, there's no game tonight. We've got no Thursday night game. Thank fuck for that, because I was rushing thinking I was going to be in a little bit of trouble. But even then, I mean, have a look at this shit. We've now got 2 games on Friday night, and one of which is a hell of a lot more watchable than the other. And that just still poses the question of having a floating fixture go down. I don't know. But it kicks off tomorrow night, rather, the first of 2 games, Essendon taking on St Kilda. I think St Kilda are going to win this one quite comfortably after seeing what they've done in recent weeks. Let's go 26 points. Essendon here could give it a red hot crack. There's a realm where they do. If there's any game that's going to be winnable for them, it's probably this one and probably the closest they're going to get. But I think St Kilda, just going in the motions, I mean, they were incredibly scrappy last week against Richmond, and I think what prevented St Kilda from winning by a much larger margin was the fact that Ross Lyon put the foot on the brake and played a very defensive game of football. Something that we're used to seeing from Ross, don't get me wrong, but having the game really stagnant, flooding defence and the kicking backwards and forwards. I mean, Wilkie and Sinclair and the likes were racking up like 11 marks, 16 marks, ridiculous numbers. If they get a little bit more free-flowing ball, they could blow this game out of proportion, which is going to be upsetting for Essendon fans, but I think St Kilda are going to get it done comfortably. The better game of the two is at Optus Stadium, Fremantle taking on Brisbane. This is going to set a lot of things in motion within this top 4. We've got Fremantle currently in the top 4. We've got Brisbane out of the top 4, so there's a lot of ramifications here to go down. I think Fremantle at home are the safe bet. That being said, Brisbane away from the Gabba could have a crack here, but I think what they missed the most last week was Lachie Neale's influence around the contest. Having another accumulator alongside the likes of Will Ashcroft and Josh Dunkley. Neale's one of those players that finds a lot of the ball and he feeds a lot of those handballs out to the running men that come through the centre. So having him absent is going to be an interesting watch. We also had McInerney go down with an injury last week as well, so maybe Darcy Fort's going to have to carry the brunt of the ruck work on his own, and I think Darcy and Jackson can get on top of that. I'm just vastly more impressed with Fremantle and how they played at Port Adelaide last week against Port Adelaide than I was seeing Brisbane against Sydney at home. So that gives me more confidence to back Fremantle here for a top 4 finish too. And I've been saying it for weeks. Fremantle, if they get themselves in a position to finish top 4, are going to be incredibly deadly and they're going to be the dark horse of that finals configuration. Saturday afternoon kicks off at People's First Stadium. Gold Coast taking on GWS. Don't tip against Gold Coast at people's first. I've learnt that firsthand. I've done it before, and I was stupid enough to do so. They are a completely different beast. It's like a Jekyll and Hyde situation with these bastards. They turn into Hyde, an unstoppable beast when it's at people's first, and then they're the nerdy fucking Jekyll whenever they're somewhere else. So let's confidently lock in the Gold Coast here, which would probably confirm at this point in time that they're going to play finals in 2025. GWS losing this puts them at risk of being the team that drops out of the top 8 and the Bulldogs can move in. So, going to be very interesting. Very interesting. Marvel Stadium later that afternoon sees Carlton hosting Port Adelaide. I'm actually going to go Carlton here. Funnily enough, I think Carlton showed enough against the Gold Coast last week to show me that they have a win in them, and I think this is where they pick that up. Later on at the MCG, we have Hawthorn taking on Melbourne. I think Hawthorn win this one convincingly, going a step further to cementing their top 8 finish. But we saw Melbourne absolutely take it to the Bulldogs last week, so don't expect Melbourne to lie down and copper pasting. They're going to fight tooth and nail to pick up this win. Final game on Saturday night sees Adelaide hosting Collingwood at Adelaide Oval. Now, there was something like Collingwood haven't lost to Adelaide since 2016 or something along those lines. Just given the scope of where we're at right now, very hard to see Adelaide losing at home to Collingwood. This would drop Collingwood potentially out of the top 4, which is huge. Actually, let's confirm that. Collingwood losing here. Actually, yeah, Collingwood losing could potentially knock them out of the top 4. If the Gold Coast and Hawthorn win, we could see some movement. Again, that's a very interesting revelation of its own, because Collingwood only a month and a half ago were 2.5 wins clear on top of the ladder, and now they're in a position where they could potentially finish out of the top 4 and be bounced out of finals the first week. That's huge, huge. Down at Ninja Stadium, Tasmania, Sunday afternoon, we have North Melbourne taking on Richmond. The safe bet is North Melbourne because it's down in Tassie, but something just tells me that Richmond are going to stand up and win this game. I mean, we played very well against St Kilda. We managed to break the walls down a little bit. We got Timmy Taranto back last week. We got Tom Lynch back, and it looked a little bit better around the grounds. I definitely feel we could give this a red hot crack. I really do. I'm going to back Richmond in. And it could be at my own detriment, but I still need to make some left field chances to move up that ladder in this competition. So we'll go with Richmond as an outside chance, and just hope that maybe we can pick up one more win for the season. Just for me, please. SCG, Sydney, Geelong. We're going Geelong, and again, it's going to be Jezza Cameron watch. I mean, they've come out and said they are playing a team-orientated brand, and we saw that last week. They're not really too focused on Jeremy Cameron reaching 100 goals. I think they're mindful of it, but they're still going to get everybody actively involved in the game. It's not just going to be, narrow-minded. We have to get the ball to Jeremy Cameron. That being said, it's going to be interesting because Tom McCartan normally, gets a decent scalp every now and again. Could he keep Jeremy Cameron under close watch and keep him to a limited amount of goals? But I just think here Geelong should win this one by at least 40 points. I mean, let's be real. If they want to be the premiership threat that they're being touted as, wins like this need to be big, big wins. Final game of the round, Marvel Stadium, the Bulldogs taking on West Coast. There's a reason they're a $19 chance here. Valiant last week against Adelaide, but out of Optus Stadium, coming down to where the Bulldogs get their best work done. There's no way the Bulldogs win this. They lose this, rather. Sorry. So there's no way West Coast win this, is what I was trying to say. So that's where I'm landing this weekend. We are going with St Kilda, Fremantle, Gold Coast, Carlton, Hawthorn, Adelaide, Richmond, Geelong, and the Bulldogs. Thank you for joining me for another tipping video. I'm glad I don't have to rush this one out. I actually thought that I was going to be cutting it close, but now that we have 2 games on Friday night and no Thursday night football, we can get this out in time. We can get this out a day beforehand, which is fantastic for me. Thank you for joining me. Do hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, do leave a like on the video. Those likes and comments and everything else that you guys do go a long way to telling YouTube I'm doing something right around here, and I appreciate it. If you'd like to get on board the community we are building, feel free to hit that subscribe button down below as well. But that's it from me, guys. I'm out of here. Good luck to your teams this weekend, and as always, I will catch you guys next time.